So here we are, the morning after. I finally saw the first two episodes of Shiny Happy People, the Duggar documentary, and the Duggar and IBLP documentary, and I have thoughts. And I know I'm not alone in having thoughts about this. I need to talk about it. If you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I used to write for Pathos, a column called No Longer Quivering. I wrote that daily for 10 years. I talked about the Duggars. I talked about Quiverfull. I talked about all things evangelical in my column. So there you go. Those are my bona fides. Those are my bona fides. So I finally watched the show. I've been putting it off. I know I could have watched it a full day earlier than I did. And I've only watched two episodes. And I've had a couple of conversations with my good friend Cindy Kunzman in Messenger about it as well. And I I'm disappointed. I'm going to just throw that right out there, right out the gate, and just get that over with. I'm disappointed because what I've seen so far does not go into enough detail, glosses over a lot of things, and I'm going to talk just a little tiny bit about that. This is going to be quick. Don't bully anybody I'm about to talk about, not even the people I dislike, because there were definitely some of those as well. I think this thing can be summed up, this entire documentary, as Jim Bob Duggar's head explodes. I think once he sees it, he is going to have heart failure or explosive diarrhea or whatever the quiverful equivalent is of having just having a conniption fit. And there were some good people and some bad people that were interviewed. There were some people that I know that are right on the level, that have good information, like Jen from Fundy Fridays is an example of one of the people that was interviewed that I thought was rock solid. There are also a couple people that were interviewed that I know and know pretty well and know that they're not very nice people and they tend to be dramatic. So there's that. And I'm not even going to name who those are. One of them was somebody that I knocked heads with at NLQ quite a bit at No Longer Quivering for a short period of time when they tried to use No Longer Quivering for their own purposes, but were upset with some of the things about No Longer Quivering. So that's what I just ask you to watch this documentary with a grain of salt. Evaluate who you think is lying and who isn't, because there's definitely some dramatic license being taken by at least one of the people. Okay? Adding Katie Joy, KJ, Paulson, without a crystal ball would have added exactly nothing useful at all. Everything that we saw has been exposed already, known, exposed, and not just No Longer Quivering, but 1,000 other outlets. So much of this information is not new in any way, shape, or form, even if it was super disturbing to watch it on the screen. Jim and Bobby Holt really stuck the knife in hard to Jim Bob and then twisted it like you would do. I had heard rumors about the falling out of Jim Bob and Jim Holt many, many years ago, before any of this came out. When this was just a rumor, it was rumored that Josh had been caught looking at Corn, Porn, on the campaign computers of Jim Holt's unsuccessful state Senate run, and that Josh was the sin in the camp. He was the sin in the camp and the reason why Holt lost, according to Holt. That was the thing we heard a lot of behind the scenes. How true it is, I don't know, because he didn't mention anything like that. He acted like it was all the reveal of the bad stuff that Josh did. That did end the courtship. That ended the courtship between Bobby and Jim Holt's oldest daughter and Josh. About like pouring ice cold water on a fighting cat. The only shocking bit to me was finding out that Jim Bob wanted it all secret from courtship partners, starting with the Holtz talking about Jim Bob admitting that he thought that engagement and marriage to Jim Holt's daughter would end all this crazy exploration and looking at the corn. That was kind of shocking. It was also shocking to me that Derek knew nothing about it until Jill called him in tears because it was being exposed to tell him about it. This is exactly the kind of information that should be upfronted. If you're getting married to somebody, they're supposedly your best friend, you better tell them that somebody did something like that to you when you were a child. Why do I say that? Because that could have really long-lasting consequences. Many of you know I've been very open about my own struggles with that, and it has impacted our marriage. I mean, it's hard to come back from that. It's hard to recover. It was hard to watch this thing last night. I was being triggered left and right, and I'm only halfway through. For me, the hardest part was listening to Jill talking about being a victim of her brother, and not just being a victim, but what I suspected all along, that she was a sacrificial lamb. You going? No, we're talking movie. Okay. Sorry, that she was a sacrificial lamb. It's my family. To the ambitions of Jim Bob, that he wanted her to excuse what Josh had done on the Megyn Kelly show. There is no coming back from that. I am sorry, not for Jill for what happened to her, but for Jim Bob sacrificing his daughters, two of his daughters. He sacrificed Jessa and Jill in order to promote the lie that what Josh did wasn't that bad. It really was that bad. That doesn't happen in normal families. And I have to call out kudos also for Derek. I had no idea he was that decent of a guy. He's got major balls and integrity. I just got to throw that out there. He listened to that from Jill, before they got married. He married her anyway, knowing that. I'm not saying it's not recoverable, because clearly it is. But in that world, it's a pretty big thing. It's a pretty big thing. And if you listen to Michael Pearl, that is kind of like being called a pre-licked candy bar. I have two words from Michael Pearl. They are not thank you or happy birthday uh, or yes please, but I'm not going to say them. I was really disappointed. The documentary glossed over so much of the abuse, or just gave it the tiniest of mentions, using the pearls as an example of one of the many times in the documentary they just were like, one mention and done. They should have had an expanded documentary series, something longer, that delved a little more into these things. I'm hoping they do in the remaining 2 episodes, but I seriously doubt that's exactly what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is they're going to continue giving out info that everybody already knows, nothing new, and just glossing over the abuse and just mentioning it. What do I mean by that, and what do they get wrong? Well, just one example I can think of, and it has to do with the pearls as well, is when they said that Pearl, when they were listing all the things that he considers a rod, they said plumbing pipe. No, that is bad research on your part. They didn't. Michael Pearl never said plumbing pipe. What he pushed in his books, and he's pushed in his videos, and he's pushed on his website, is 1/4 inch thick plumbing line, not plumbing pipe. That is a major difference there. Plumbing pipe is rigid and hard, like this pen would be, this marker I've got. The Not the plumbing pipe, but the line is flexible. It whips around. It hurts a lot more, I think, than being hit by the plumbing pipe. I'm sorry, I'm horribly distracted as usual. I just looked down and I've got a giant bleach stain on my pants. Oh, the joys of coming from Costa Rica, where it's like, oh, I got a bleach stain. Oh well. To coming here, it's like, oh, I can't wear these pants. I got a bleach stain. So that's really all I wanted to say. I said a bunch last night on Twitter immediately after watching the show. I'm going to come back and do another little review like this as soon as I've seen the other two episodes. It's not going to be today because I'm going back out to my hometown, my little town where I lived, and spending the day with my friend that had the accident back around Halloween. She can't travel, she can't get around, so I really want to spend as much time with her as I can. So I'm going to spend tomorrow with her, and the day after, my husband's crazy friend is coming over to visit. You'll probably hear me rant about that at some point. So that's it. Watch this at your own caution. Take what everybody is saying with a grain of salt. I wanted to throw up every time Amy Duggar King came on camera because she was like this with KJ for so long, and they had a falling out over KJ luring her into speaking about Backwoods Barbie. Um, and they made fun of Backwoods Barbie for her accent, something that we cannot really help. If you have an accent like that, I mean, really, that's you growing up picking that thing up, and there's not a lot you can do about it. I've struggled with this off and on because of my southern accent. There are times when I've tried to disguise it as much as possible, to speak the King's English as well as possible. Because some people are going to look at you when they hear those accents and just think you're stupid. They're just going to automatically decide that you are as dumb as the day is long. So they were making fun of Backwoods Barbie for her accent. The silly thing is then what happened was Amy started saying, "Oh, I didn't mean Backwoods Barbie. I meant redneck women in general. It was redneck women in general," which doesn't make her excuse any better in my eyes. You don't make fun of people for how they speak. You just don't do that. I don't know how Amy would like it if I started making fun of the way she spoke or how round her face was yesterday or other things like that. So that's what it took to break the two of them up, and now they're back thick as thieves again. Wait for them to call somebody filthy names again, to be disgraceful, disgusting, and childish again. I'm sure the two of them are already up to that. It's been interesting, the lead up to the series, because Katie Joy has been having tantrums about it. And that's been interesting to watch. It's always interesting when she gets a little intoxicated and starts ranting. And that's what's going on. I managed to stay with my lyrica long enough to do this video today. I'm going to go take one now, so I'll be as spacey and weird as I usually am. Okay, you guys, I love you. I'm going to go. I got stuff to do today, people to see. And I'll be back after I see the other two episodes.